Hi, this is Paul. I live in New Hampshire, so I go by Paul in New Hampshire. This teleseminar is going to be talking about gold historically, and also comparing I graduated in 1972 from high school, so I'm going to be showing historically some numbers as to how much we've lost as far as our purchasing power with the dollar, and also with our ability to earn money by working at an hourly rate. Like I said, I graduated in 1972, and at that time the minimum wage was $1.60 an hour. In 1972, I also bought a Chevrolet Vega. That was my first real car. At that time, I spent $2,200 for it, or roughly in that area. So at $1.60 an hour, which was the minimum wage at that point, and I am going to be comparing apples to apples here pretty much as I can, that Chevrolet Vega would cost me actually 1,375 hours of my time. My parents' house at that time, which is a 5-bedroom house in Houston, a very nice house in the suburbs, at that time was valued at $35,000. Again, at the minimum wage, it would take somebody 21,875 man hours, making minimum wage, to buy that house. Which is 10 years. Okay, so, and this is minimum wage again. Okay, so at the also anyway, so just, and I don't have any charts. I'll be putting these numbers down on the video as you see it. Now, today, 2010, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Okay. A comparable car to the Chevrolet Vega I picked was the Honda Civic. Okay, that car now is worth or you buy that car now for $15,605. Now, equating that to the $7.25 an hour, it now takes somebody 2,152 hours to buy that car, or a whole year's worth of work at minimum wage. Now compare that, compare that to the Vega, where it only took 1,375 hours to buy a car. It now takes twice as many hours to buy a car. Okay, so basically our ability to earn money and buy something has been cut in half. That's why so many families now have to have 2 wage earners, because it takes 2 people to buy the same thing that we could buy back in 1972. Now, going back to my parents' house, their house is now worth $350,000. That house, same minimum, somebody minimum wage, it now would take them 48,275 hours to buy that house. Again, comparing that back to 1972, the 21,000 hours, again, it takes twice as many hours to work to buy the same thing. So our purchasing power, based on the ability of us to earn money, has been cut in half. That's over the past 40 years. Now, gold. Back in 1971, President Nixon took away the gold, the dollar being linked to the value of gold. Gold at that time, before Nixon did that, but at that point, pre-1971, the dollar was marked to an ounce of gold at 1.3 times. In other words, a dollar was worth 1.3 grams of gold. And so for all the way since back to the Depression, the dollar and gold were tied right at $35. It took $35 to buy an ounce of gold, because the dollar was tied to gold. 1971, President Nixon then decided that the dollar would no longer be tied to gold. So in 1970, the price of gold was $36.02. 1971, it went up to $40. 1972, it was up to $58.42. Today, it's worth close to $1,400. So now let's go back to our car and house scenario. If you bought my Chevrolet Vega with gold at that time in 1972, it would take 37.29 ounces of gold to buy my Chevrolet Vega. To buy my parents' house, it would take 593 ounces of gold. Okay? Now you take the price of gold now, buy the Honda Civic and my parents' house, and it only takes 11.35 ounces of gold to buy a Honda Civic, and only 254 ounces of gold to buy that house, worth $350,000. So where the dollar and our ability to earn that dollar has doubled over the past 40 years, the ability to buy things with gold has been cut into 20%. So in other words, where it took 37 ounces of gold in 72 to buy a car, it now only takes 11. That's like 18%. In the house, where it took 593, now it takes 254, which is roughly half. So the ability to buy things with gold has been cut in half, or and the ability to buy things with a dollar and earn that dollar has doubled. So there's really a fourfold here or more in the comparison of dollars and earning that dollar, and then converting dollars to gold and earning those things. Now going back to the wages to gold. Again, the minimum wage in 1972 was $1.60. It took 37 hours to buy an ounce of gold. Nowadays, in 2010, with the minimum wage of $7.25, it takes 189 hours to buy an ounce of gold. So again, you see where the purchasing power of an hour worked has just gone skyrocketing. All this has been because the dollar is becoming less valued. It takes more and more hours to work to make that dollar, and that dollar is worth less. Now the other big thing is the U.S. debt. Back in hold on a second, I'm sorry. Back in 1970, the U.S. debt was around $380 billion. Today, it's $13.8 trillion. Okay? Now, that concerns me, because that's $13.8 trillion and going up every day means the dollar is worth less and less and less. Now, debt, whether it be an individual debt or government debt, has to be paid some way, somehow, at some point. There's three ways to pay it. Two of them we've all heard about: raising taxes or cutting spending. But there's a third. The third is what scares me the most. The third is inflation. Again, back in the 70s and 80s, when inflation was going up, was real high, I was a CPA, and we were advising everybody with money to borrow money, because you borrow money and then you pay it off with cheaper dollars. I'm afraid, my fear is that that's how the U.S. is going to pay off this $13.8 trillion worth of debt. Is they're going to make the dollar worth less in the future, and pay down this debt with cheaper dollars. That's inflation. That means Going back, we're going to have to work longer and harder for that dollar, and that dollar is going to be worth less and less and less. The way to protect ourselves, historically proven through these numbers and in the future, is with gold. Up until now, gold has been for only the wealthy. You could only buy a coin, and you'd have to buy the whole coin, $1,400. Or you could buy a gold bullion, and then there were minimums. Or you could play the market. There's now a way to participate for everybody to start converting their dollars into gold with a savings plan backed by the Swiss government. The gold is held in the Swiss vault. It's your gold, and this can be done at a very easy monthly amount or in lump sum amounts. And that opportunity is KB Edelmetall. They're out of Germany, and they're just now coming to the United States. I'll have my website on the bottom of this for you to get some more information. But I highly, highly recommend everybody to put as much of their dollars into gold. Hard gold, not in the market, not in the stock market, not futures, nothing like that. Real gold. What KB Edelmetall and KB Gold is doing is they're actually, and this is very big in Europe now, they're being, many stores, tens of thousands of stores are actually accepting these gold currency that KB Edelmetall is putting out as currency. So anyway, more information on that on my website, and please do that. And again, seriously, I very, very concerned about the future of the dollar, of the economy, and the national debt. I hate working more for my dollar being less money. Okay, everybody have a great year, day, night, whatever. This is Paul in New Hampshire saying good night.